think we're going. I'm here. I'm here. I made it. I made it to the stream. Wow. Let's all go. Hopefully I've got the camera set up, the mic set up properly. How's the sight and hearing? That means sight, apparently. Hey! All good for sound? Awesome, okay, cool. I can't remember what happened last time. Doesn't really matter. We're still gonna fuck around for a little bit. Thank you. It's supposed to be wine coloured, but it's just purple. I'm into it. I like it. Didn't really want to be the purple hair person today, but it's working. I like it. A little bit flat in the old affect. That's what I've been wondering. When, like, psychiatrists and mental health workers of all kinds, when they move to New Zealand, do they have to take an extra class in working out when someone has a flat or monotone affect? Because we kind of start really low. It's probably not an official class. It's probably something you just have to get a handle on. Okay. Okay, yep. Jenna and Hayley are best friends. They're like sisters. They've come to Shadyside for the summer. It's the olden times. The Fears did give Helen and Jasmine jewelry from Helga and Jennifer. They did. Oh god. His lipstick's just migrating. They gave Hayley and Jenna jewelry from Hannah and Julia. And they were like, oh, do come again, visit us. Do your parents know you visit us, by the way? Just asking. Normal thing to ask. They don't? Well. So. Oh, and also, weirdly, Hannah Fear, who was like the good one who wasn't into murdering her sister, has a bunch of voodoo dolls. Apparently she got super into voodoo. So Jenna has Julia's bracelet, Julia being the plain one. Hayley has Hannah's locket. And then, okay, Jenna has put the bracelet on, and the bracelet has gotten hotter, like the amulet, but different. And it goes on and on like this about how hot the bracelet's getting, and then fiery fingers were choking her neck, and it was shooting into her skull, and Jenna gripped the sides of her head and screamed, ah! I think she was doing the JFK voice, though, so I think she screamed like, ah! Hey, Josh! Oh, that's awesome. Oh my god. Oh, I want kittens. I can't have them. Flora thinks she's the baby, so if I get a kitten, she'll just kill it. So that was the end of that chapter. Thought I heard something. I don't know what stupid voices to do for which characters. Last time, I think, Last time Angelica was Betty Boop, and it got out of control pretty quickly. Simon was Foghorn Leghorn. Jenna was JFK, I think. Ooh. Holly's nemesis. Holy shit. I can't remember what Haley was. I want to say Dracula. I think Haley was Dracula. Can't remember. So we got 4 people in this chapter. Who wants to like throw out what's a voice you'd like to hear today that is stupid? Maybe as stupid as the text I'm reading from. That wouldn't be easy. Oh, Calico Cat. No, I don't know their voices. I mean, I know Garfield's voice was Bill Murray. Old-timey detective, see? No, I'm really bad at that one, which is, I do it all the time, at D&D, but it slides into Walt Tremblay instantly. Maybe I'll do Walt Tremblay. Okay. Oh, no, that's terrible. It'll be really bad. You won't like it. Vampire voice is always pretty funny, yeah. It's so bad, like, it's not good. I will try for you, though. Nandor, oh yeah! I was doing the Nandor voice for Danny and John in Valheim. I don't know if I can do it when I'm reading text, but I'm gonna try. Okay, Nandor, Walt Tremblay. Muppets. Can't remember what Muppets sound like. Like, I kind of do, but I kind of don't. I'll make one of them Sean Connery. Let's try that. We'll do a bunch of voices that I'm not, like, familiar with, and we'll all suffer together. Chapter 5, Daughters of Silence. Gina! What is it there? I have not got it. Angelica grasped Jenna's arm and held her upright. Do you feel faint? It's meant to be Nandor. It's so bad. Fuck. Jenna lifted her head and managed to focus on the older woman's face. Angelica's brow looked creased with concern. An odd expression glittered in her green eyes. Jenna opened her mouth to speak, but she could barely sound a few choked, unintelligible words. Oh, my dear girl. What on earth is the matter? I can't fucking get it. I can't get it. Ah, jeez. Ah, my dear girl. What's the matter? What's the matter? I can't even get Sam Valentine. I do that every week. Is it? Okay, I'll try it. What on earth is the matter? It's horrible. Angelica exclaimed. Cheeky Nandor. She pressed her cool palm to Jenna's burning cheek. Guillermo, she's dreadfully overheated, she told Simon. Ah, jeez. Ah, yes, she looks quite pale, Simon observed. I'm going to do Sam Valentine because I can't do Walt Tremblay. Yet, with Angelica's hand still pressed to her cheek, Jenna suddenly felt the heat vanish. She let her breath out with a gasp. Her arms and legs felt as though they'd been turned to jelly, and she struggled to stand upright. She couldn't believe this. She just couldn't believe it. Fuck, I was burning, she whispered, more to herself than to the others. Skin, blood, and bones. Fucking burning. Have you lost your wits? Highlander, Haley demanded, staring at her with wide, surprised eyes. You weren't burning. You were just standing there with your eyes popping out of your head. Sometimes it's okay to hit a woman. Jenna shook her head. It felt so real, so frightening. Now she felt normal again. What was happening to her? I don't understand, she whispered. She pulled away from Angelica's hold. Simon and Angelica exchanged a look. Ah, jeez. These goddamn rooms are so stuffy. You simply need some fresh air, my dear, Simon suggested. Perhaps a glass of water. You want a glass of water? You want a glass of lemonade? That's what you want on a day like this. Yes, that's it, Angelica agreed. We should have to open the windows on such a warm day. How careless. Terrible. It is very hot up here, Jenna thought. She only needed some fresh air. You weren't, Jenny. Just because the bracelet had once belonged to a dead girl, she'd let her imagination run away with her again. Besides, Julia was buried alive, not burned. Yeah, I must have got too warm, eh? She told Angelica and Simon. Yeah, that makes sense. Haley laughed. Jenna likes things to make sense. Simon cocked one dark brow. And what about you, Haley, huh? Do you like things to make sense, kid? You like it, huh? You like sense better than nonsense? I always like sense better than nonsense. I like adventure, she told him. And I'm always getting poor Jenna in trouble. Slapping her around, I think it's okay. And why do you let Haley get you into trouble, Jenna? Simon asked curiously. Sam Valentine points a lot. She points with a cigarette. This will go easier if I get it out. These are joke cigarettes where you puff them and like you go and some powder comes out. But I coated them in clear nail polish because they're just for gesticulating purposes. And why do you let Haley get you into trouble, Jenna? Simon asked curiously. Jenna shrugged. She's my best friend, she explained. And she'd never desert me in a pinch, Haley added. Right, Jenna? Yeah, Jenna replied with a nod. Again, she noticed Simon and Angelica exchange a meaningful glance, almost as if they were sending each other a silent message, Jenna felt. But that was impossible. As impossible as the burning bracelet. Jenna, are you sure you're feeling all right? Angelica asked. Yeah, Jenna insisted. Sure enough, she wanted to get out of this house as fast as possible. She shot a glance at Haley. Far, we gotta go, Haley. Haley blinked, almost as if she'd been daydreaming. Oh, yes, I suppose we do, she agreed. Yeah, we'll show you to the door, kids, Simon offered, leading the way. Hey, you're good kids, you two. Don't you get into no mischief, huh? Angelica strolled behind him. Jenna followed, pulling Haley after her. Once again, the walk down the long, shadowy hallway felt endless. Jenna paused, glancing down at her wrist. Even in the dim corridor, the crystal bracelet sparkled as if lit from within. She turned and followed Angelica and Haley upstairs. Up ahead, she saw Simon opening the heavy front door. I'm really glad all this is explained, otherwise I'd be like, how did they get out of that house? Hey, thanks for coming to visit, he said, holding the door as they passed. I hadn't realised how lonely we were until I saw your fresh young faces. Oh, you're such pretty girls. This is very Sam Valentine. Haley giggled. Thank you. And you do remind me of sisters, he added, his cold, dark eyes fixing on Jenna. Thank you, she mumbled as she quickly stepped toward the threshold. She felt Angelica's grip on her arm, stopping her dead in her tracks. Angelica's thin fingers felt very cool, her pointy nails biting into Jenna's flesh through the fabric of her gown. Promise you'll come again, Angelica urged. I don't think I could bear it if you didn't. Stuck here with Guillermo. Of course we'll come again, Haley vowed. Astonished, Jenna stared at her friend. She couldn't believe Haley had promised to return. Or indeed promised. Haley didn't seem to notice Jenna's stare. She led the way out into the porch, pausing to wave to their host as she neared the steps. Jenna didn't look back. The moment they were out of sight of the house, she ripped off the bracelet. "What are you doing, Highlander?" Hayley demanded. "No, I'm not going to wear it, eh?" Jenna replied. "Why not?" Jenna shuddered, remembering that terrifying moment when her body felt swallowed up by flames. "Oh, it belonged to a dead girl, eh?" This is Sharon the Barbarian. It's not really the Australian Chuck Tingle voice anymore. "So what?" Hayley retorted. "So did my locket, and I love it. I'm going to wear it all the time." "Yeah, well, I'm not..." Hayley laughed. "Ha ha ha! You're a goose, Jenna. It's such a pretty bracelet. The Fears were very generous to give it to you, and you're making something horrible out of it." "You great haggis." "I don't feel right wearing it," Jenna insisted. "I can't believe you promised to go back there." "Why not?" Hayley asked. "Don't you feel sorry for them? Especially Angelica. I thought she would burst out crying when she told us the story about the scones." "I thought so too," Jenna replied. Jenna had never seen anyone look quite as mournful as Angelica did each time she spoke about her daughters, and she had felt sorry for her. Yet, sorry or not, some other voice whispered an urgent warning. "Hey, you stay away from their house." "Yeah, I feel sorry for them, eh?" she told her friend. "And they weren't nice to us. But I don't want to go back." "Well, they might give us some more pretty things," Hayley wheedled. "Hayley, you cunt." The other girl tossed her blonde curls. "Oh, you know I don't mean that. But the other girls are going to be so jealous when they find out we were invited there. And every time we go back, we'll have something exciting to tell our new friends." Jenna pressed her hand against her pocket, feeling the hard shape of the crystal beads. "Yeah, if that's the only reason they're your friends, maybe they're not worth having as friends." "Ah, that's easy for you to say, Highlander," Hayley retorted, and then I lost my place. "You can go back to Brentsville, where you know everybody." "Oh, Hayley." With a whirl of skirts and blonde hair, Hayley spun around and started running towards the woods. "Oi!" Jenna shouted after her. "Hayley, what are you doing?" "Hayley!" But either Hayley didn't hear or didn't pay attention. She kept running. A moment later, she disappeared among the trees. Jenna let her breath out in a hiss of exasperation. "Suit yourself, Hayley. I'm not about to chase yous all the way home," Jenna said aloud, feeling irritated with her friend. It's good storytelling. "I'm going to take my time. You can just fucking wait." She set off towards the Sheridans' home. The sun set low in the summer sky, illuminating the thick green woods with slanting beams of orange-red light. Masses of tiny purple flowers carpeted the ground. They seemed to glow against the dark leaves that covered the forest floor. Yeah, there's a forest in town, doesn't matter. Jenna felt her foul mood vanish. She knew Hayley. Once her friend ran off her temper, she'd be cheerful and agreeable again. Jenna walked slowly and gazed around. The light changed from orange to deep red, and it seemed as though she'd stepped inside a jewel. She spotted the nodding blooms of some Queen Anne's lace and stopped to pick a bouquet. Fuck, she's boring. Raising the flowers to her nose, she inhaled their scent as she strolled on. She'd give the flowers to Mrs. Sheridan. Hayley's mother would be pleased, Jenna decided. Her foot slammed painfully into a tree root, and her arms windmilled for a moment as she tried to keep her balance. The flowers flew in all directions as she hit the ground face forward, hard enough to knock the wind out of her lungs. Leaving a perfect Jenna-shaped outline in the ground. Jenna lay gasping, her cheek pressed to the soft, damp floor of the woods. It's not really a floor, we call it the ground, but okay. Finally, she took a deep breath and started to push herself up. Her right hand slipped out from under her, and she felt something sticky on her palm. Ugh! It's written out there. She sat quickly and stared down at her hand. "What?" she began. A dark smear stained her palm. "Mud. Yuck." She rubbed her hand on her dress. Jesus, no, not on your dress. Do you have any idea? No, not mud. A red, wet stain marked the pale yellow fabric of her dress. Jenna stared down at the crimson smear. A bitter taste flooded the back of her throat. Blood. 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 Horrible, sticky blood. Her blood. Blood. And bits of sick. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 5. No, she's not dead. She just fell down. She's picking flowers, fell down. I'm guessing it's going to be a dead animal because that is the, that's the MO of R.L. Stine. I'm just skimming. Nope. Nope. No dead animals. Someone had their period here. There's the MO of RL. John screamed in horror as his hands fell off. It's one of my favourite Garth Marenghi openings. Chapter 6. I'm going to change Jenna's voice because it's annoying. Jenna scrambled to her feet. She must have cut herself. Badly, too, to be bleeding so much. She searched her palm, but didn't find a wound. Strange. Her hand didn't hurt at all, either. No, it's the other way round. If your hand... okay. It didn't make sense. Why didn't she see a cut? Where did the blood come from? A chill slithered up her spine. If this wasn't her blood, then it must be someone else's. Her gaze dropped to the spot on the forest floor where she'd fallen. Again, we do call it the ground when we're outdoors, but these girls are probably related to the Fears and the Goods because they've got the brains, you know? All around, thick red splotches coated the green leaves. Jenna had never seen so much blood. She started licking it up. Yum, 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 blood for me. Blood for me, she thought. Blood for me. That's not on there. She took a step backward. Blood spattered the ground and dripped down the trunk of a white birch tree. With a gasp, she stared in shock at the bloody handprint that stood out with terrible sharpness against the white bark. Just above the handprint, a thin metal object glinted in the fading sunlight. Like a silver knitting needle jabbed into the tree. I know, it's free blood and real estate. Jenna reached out and yanked the metal object by its rounded, knobby end. She looked down at it, her lip curled back in horror. A small, carefully carved skull stared up at her from the needle's rounded end. The other end tapered to a fine, incredibly sharp tip. Jenna knew instantly what she held in her hand. I'm glad. I'm really glad because it's not complicated. The long silver pin looked exactly like those she'd seen at the Fear's house. The pins that stabbed through the hideous doll made by Hannah Fear. Ooh. Where's my drink? Oh dear. Oh no, here it is. Got it. I'm just so glad she recognised a pin. I mean, she recognised it because she'd seen a pin earlier that day. And maybe if she hadn't, she wouldn't have gotten there, but it's fine. Yeah, not a knitting needle, just a voodoo pin. It's all very ambiguous as to what actually ever happened. Continuity is not the strong point. Jenna shrieked in horror and flung the needle onto the ground. Wait, no she didn't, because she hasn't seen yet that, a paragraph before that, she swiftly glanced back at the blood-splattered tree and ground, then down at the silver skull-headed needle that glistened with droplets of blood. And then she shrieked in horror and flung the needle onto the ground. She heard the underbrush rustle. Time had restored itself, and then the unmistakable crunch of footsteps on the path nearby. Who was out there? The person who had left that bloody print on the tree and that horrifying silver needle? He'd seen her. He was coming back. Jenna felt her breath coming in heavy gasps. She had to run, get away, fast. But her feet felt rooted to the ground. That's right, it is the ground. A scream welled up in her chest. She fought to swallow it back, but couldn't. Her shriek echoed through the woods. Ah! Whirling, she started running. She ran and ran, down the narrow twisting path and into the dark woods. Close behind her she heard the footsteps, faster now, pounding on the forest floor. We're back to floor. It's okay. It could be your friend, yeah. Who knows? She picked up her skirt and ran with one arm out to push back the scratching branches that blocked her way. She crashed through the tangled brush and low-lying tree boughs. Her skirts tangled in her legs and branches clawed at her hair as she tore through the bushes. Her hair fell loose from her braid and whipped wildly across her face. Still the footsteps followed her. Yeah, she should keep the pin, and then her great-grandchildren can take it on Antiques Roadshow. She ran faster than she'd ever run in her life. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. Every breath burned her chest and her legs ached painfully. But she kept going, thinking of the blood. The long silver needle dripping with blood. Her toe caught on a tree root and she stumbled to the ground. Exhausted, she desperately pulled herself up and staggered forward. She couldn't fall. She couldn't stop. Not now. Not here. She just has, but, you know. She stilled her breath and listened. The footsteps still followed. Closer and closer. No! A voice in Jenna's mind roared. It was Jenna, but she didn't know that. She couldn't let him catch her. She couldn't. She heard the footsteps even louder now. She kept moving forward, but the woods grew so thick here. She could barely take a step without her feet tangling in vines and stiff, scratchy bushes. He was right behind her. She could hear his breath rasping nearly as fast as hers. She wasn't going to make it. He was going to get her. She clawed her way through the brush. Oh no, she panted. Oh no. She felt two heavy hands grip her shoulders. I'm skipping some exposition because it's a man chasing a woman. We get it. She shrieks again with horror. She knew no one could hear her. Jenna's captor wrapped a powerful arm around her waist and pulled her to a stop. And I'm not going to stop there because it's a handsome boy her own age. And by the laws of R.L. Stine, that's okay. Chapter 7. Oh my god, it's John Mulaney, isn't it? It's that story about him chasing the woman in the train station. Oh, far, let me go, Jenna cried, struggling frantically. Her captor held on, impossibly strong. She squirmed and struggled, bruising herself in his grasp. Hey, stop! A low voice murmured in her ear. Don't be afraid! This is me doing a really bad John Mulaney. I'm just a little boy. Taking her by both shoulders, he turned her round to face him. Jenna found herself looking up at a boy around her own age. He stood at least a head taller than her. Nice. Dark brown hair flopped across his broad forehead. Jenna stared into his deep brown eyes. Oh, don't hurt us, eh? She gasped. He kept his grip on her shoulders, but his touch felt gentle. I'm not going to hurt you, he assured her. I promise. I'm just a little boy. Oh, fuck, you chased me. I heard you screaming, he explained. I only wanted to help. I'm John Mulaney. Not where I expected to go with that, but there we are. She saw only kindness in his dark eyes. Kindness and concern. He smiled at her, and she felt herself calming down a bit. Just get your breath back and tell me what happened. I was walking back there somewhere, she started to explain. I fell on the ground. in a puddle of blood. His eyes widened. Blood? Yeah, all over, she cried, her voice high and strange sounding. On the ground, in the leaves, and on a tree, someone left a bloody handprint. She noticed that he stared down at her skirt. She saw only John Mulaney in his dark eyes. His John Mulaney eyes. She glanced down and gasped. An ugly crimson streak stained the fabric where she'd rubbed her hand. Her stomach bucked and heaved. Now, calm down, he soothed. Yeah, I'm calm, she insisted. Only then did she realize she was trembling so badly that her teeth chattered. She fought for control, and finally she managed to stop the shudders. Look, you don't have to talk about it anymore. Why don't I take you home? He offered. Nah, Jenna shook her head. There's more. Far, there's something else. He peered at her. What do you mean? When I looked closer, I found this fucking needle stuck in the tree, Jenna stammered. One end was all pointy and the other end fucking wasn't. That's a needle, or pin, and it had a silver skull in it also. Far. Silver needles? I don't understand. He gazed at her with a puzzled expression. Did he think she'd made it all up? Oh, it's hard to explain what they look like, Jenna explained. No, it isn't. She stared down at her ruined dress again and twisted a bit of fabric in her hand. Should she tell this stranger about the dolls she'd seen at the Fears house? No, probably not. If he lived... Puke on him, yeah. If he lived in the village and heard she'd been visiting the Fears, he'd have even more reason to doubt her strange story. He might leave her alone right here and now. Jenna knew she couldn't stand being left alone in these woods right now. Oh, Far, I'm sorry, Jenna stammered and looked up at him again. Sorry, John Mulaney. I guess you can believe me or not. I did see the blood and this pin, like an incredibly sharp fucking knitting needle, stabbed into the tree. He studied her for a moment. Did you see anything else? An animal carcass, maybe? You might have simply stumbled on a place where a hunter had shot and dressed a rabbit or a deer. No, Jenna shook her head. An animal wounded by a hunter might have left the blood, but what about the skull-tipped needle? She wished she'd taken it with her, at least to show Haley. Do you want me to go and look? The boy asked. It sounded like a logical way to prove her story. He could go see it all for himself. But when Jenna glanced around, her heart dropped. Oh, I don't know how to get there, eh? She sighed and glanced around the darkening woods. I ran off the fucking path and stumbled around so much. I got no idea what direction I came from. And I was so intent on catching you that I didn't pay attention to where I was going, he replied. He raked back his hair with one hand, and she came. I'm sure that whatever you saw was frightening, he told her kindly. But it sounds to me like you stumbled upon a spot where a hunter shot and dressed a deer. There's so much blood, she protested. A deer is a large animal, he pointed out, and if the hunter dressed it there, he was bound to have blood on his hands. A deer. A hunter. It all made sense. Jenna could almost believe his reasonable-sounding words, if she didn't stop to think about the ominous silver pin, looking for a needle in a blood stack. But what good would it do to stand here arguing about it? She couldn't even explain it to herself. Oh shit, my voice is giving out. I'll try and make it to the end of the chapter. Oh, you're right, she agreed finally. Yeah, must have been a hunter, eh? Just to be sure, I'll come back tomorrow and look for the spot in daylight. All right? Jenna eagerly nodded. Yeah. Good. Now let me take you home. I'm sure your family is wondering where... Oh, no, Jenna gasped. Hayley! Seeing the confusion on the boy's face, she hurried to explain. Hayley's my friend. She ran away to tease me, and that's why I was in the woods alone. Girlfriends confirmed. Now I'm sure she'll be fucking worried about me. Then we'll get you home, the boy said. Do you live in town? Nah, I'm visiting Hayley's family for the summer. They live on the eastern edge of town, on Crescent Lane. Then we ought to walk this way, he said, pointing straight ahead. If I could walk that way, I wouldn't be in these woods alone. Straightening her shoulders, she pushed her tousled hair back behind her ears. My name's Jenna Hanson, by the way. You might know of my brothers. My name is Rob, the boy said, falling into step beside her. Rob Smith. In the lingering light of the setting sun, Jenna studied Rob from the corner of her eye. He was about her age, or maybe a couple of years older. Even though she'd just met him, she liked him very much. His eyes had a gentle John Mulaney look, and his smile seemed honest and open like John Mulaney's. Have you ever been to Shadyside before? He asked. That was my first visit, she replied. Hayley and I used to live in the same town in Virginia, but his family moved here a few months ago. Oh my god, this is a long chapter. You're a good friend to come all that way for a visit. I guess you missed her a lot, he replied. Yeah, I don't have any brothers or sisters. Neither does Hayley. So we're really close. And also we're fucking. What about you? She asked. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Me? His voice caught oddly. No. Do you live in Shadyside? A frown rumpled his forehead. No. I came here a while ago. The Fears hired me as their handyman and groundskeeper, and they even let me use the gardener's cottage on their estate. The Fears? He worked for the Fears? At the mere mention of their name, Jenna felt icy fingertips race across her scalp. She glanced at Rob. His steps had slowed, and he gazed around the woods, looking confused. Did he think that they were lost? Oh, Rob, is anything wrong? She asked. Not lost again or anything, are we? No, we're not lost. We'll come to the edge of the woods in just a few minutes. The road to your friend's house meets the woods right at that point, he promised. He glanced at her and then looked away. They walked along in silence for a few moments. Far where's from? She asked, picking up the conversation again. He turned to look at her, then looked away. His eyes looked strange. Glassy and pained, as if trying to answer her had somehow caused him extreme discomfort. I'm from, he stammered. His voice sounded choked. He raised his hand to his throat as his mouth opened and closed, but Jenna heard no words come out. Alarm stabbed like a red-hot blade through Jenna's chest. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Rob! She whispered. He staggered. With one hand he grabbed a nearby sapling. With the other he grabbed Jenna's sleeve. With a third hand he just sort of waved and gave a peace sign. Jenna saw fear and exhaustion in his eyes and a plea for help. She didn't know what to do. She gripped his arms as his legs sagged beneath him. Rob, she cried. Don't fall. Oh, please don't fall. Then you'll be on the ground instead of up here. His eyes rolled back in his head. Then he dropped in a heap to the forest floor. Jenna crouched down beside him. Rob? He didn't answer. He didn't move. She stared down at his white, still face. Her pulse drummed in her ears. She laid her palm on his chest, searching for his heart. No heartbeat. No sign of breath. Oh, no, she whispered, her mind reeling. It couldn't be. A moment ago he'd been walking beside her, talking, smiling. He couldn't be. Dead? End of chapter. Thank you for joining me for this today. I didn't know that. I don't know why I hurt my voice, but it was worth it. It was all worth it, Guillermo. I hurt my voice talking on the internet. I will have to go and hydrate 1,000 times. Rob Zombie, oh my god. I knew the guy was old, I didn't know he was that old. Thank you guys so much. And I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Although tomorrow will be a Monday, which, see how we go. Good night, good night, good night. Thank you, good night, good night. Good night!